views expressed on the following show are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we do encourage you to like and share them on social media and with all your friends, because it's time for Rudy Howard, private insurance agent, presents the African American scene with a guest ready to go tonight. Here's your host, Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Now, and I do have a guest that will, for those of you that listen to me regularly, you will recognize the name Anaya. First, let me hit you with a couple of things that I find very interesting. Some months ago, I think it was during Black History Month, I talked about a family that had their property confiscated by the L.A. City, and it was a beachfront property, and they were forced to leave it. Well, justice has prevailed, and the city of Los Angeles is returning ownership of that property to that black family that had developed that beachside resort. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $75 million value that they got back. Oh my God, there is justice. There is justice. I was over the moon happy for them when they discovered that. And you know, there's another thing that I saw this week. There was a lady out of Baltimore who had some special genes. And I can't think of her name, but I will look that up before next show. And all of the scientists throughout the country have used her genes to develop various medications and treatments. And she's never been given any credit for it. They've made millions and millions of dollars on it. And now they are represented by attorney Ben Crump. And everybody knows who that is. He's the civil rights attorney. They're trying to seek to get proper compensation for their mother's genes, who have been responsible for creating so many different types of medicine. Pretty amazing stuff.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
To have the genes in you already, that becomes, it's more than a gift.
Yeah, she had something special in her. Well, and then one final thing, and this is something we've talked about on here quite a bit, and then we're going to get to Anaya, but I saw a thing on 60 Minutes, and you've heard me talk about this tiny housing development. It works. Folks, it works. They build these tiny houses that are like 500-600 square feet. They got 2 bedrooms, a sink, and a stove. And it's just to help get people off the streets and into at least a place that they can call home temporarily. So it's designed to try to help give them an uplift, and then they can eventually find a place to live. I think that is a very worthy thing that we should pursue here. And I'm going to say something that my Roxy would say. And it's something for you to think about. We have multiple dog and animal shelters. Multiple.
Everywhere.
Okay? We have I want you to hear this again now, 0 homeless shelters. So are we saying that we care more about dogs and cats than human beings? Just think about that for a second.
It does look a little suspicious.
Oh, my God. Wow. Well, you know, over the past couple of weeks, I've talked about Haiti a little bit, and I had, admittedly, some ambivalent feelings about exactly what we should do when it comes to Haiti. But in preparing for this show, I'm not ambivalent at all anymore. I think we have to reach out and help the Haitian people. And I believe that Anaya and I will make the case that you all will be able to understand. Good evening, Anaya.
Good evening. Good evening, my brothers on the Treasure Coast, and to everybody listening on WPSL radio tonight.
Yeah. So glad to have you here. Well, Anaya, with the Haitians coming over through that place in Texas, everybody's now like, well, what should we do? Well, one of the things that I'm surprised about is some of the people from Haiti have been in other countries in that region for months before coming here. Do I understand that you took a trip there?
I actually, are you referring to Texas? Taking a trip to Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, for those that are tuning in to the African American Teen Show, I want to say, this is such a great opportunity to help educate the community as well as see what we can do in order to give back in any way possible, because the Treasure Coast is full of Haitians, and I'm pretty sure that there are a few listening tonight. So after the past earthquake that happened, as we know, January 2010, I believe, a lot of Haitians migrated and left Haiti because of the insecurity, the problems with hunger and things of that nature. And they just kind of stayed in places like Chile, Mexico, Ecuador, Brazil, because they found that it was a better living situation at the time. However, 10 plus years later, things in Haiti never got better, and the people are still suffering in Haiti, but also now the monies have kind of depleted in areas that I just mentioned. So the people that got here to America, in particular to Texas, some of them were already making their journey over, and some of them were already in the territory prior to the media even getting the information out.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got. There's several things that are historic about Haiti, and I don't know that people truly understand. Haiti was responsible for the first independent revolution from slavery in 1804. The very first one. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. They declared their independence, and they were independent from France. And then in 1825, France comes back to Haiti and says, "We want compensation for the loss of slaves and the property that the plantation owners lost."
That's right.
Yeah, and here's the thing, because most people don't know this. Haiti was a thriving, prosperous island up until then.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so the French come back and demand money and threatening with armed boats that Haiti must pay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then to make matters worse, France also required Haiti to sell their goods to them at a 50% reduction cost. All the cards were stacked against Haiti.
That's right.
So what is it that you, as a champion for Haitian people, and you're right, Port Saint Lucie has a large population of Haitian people. What is it that you're trying to accomplish, and what is it that we need to do to try to help make things better?
Well, thank you so much for doing your research, Rudy, and understanding that this is literally a racist attack on a people that have gained their independence. And because people like Napoleon were defeated, they've had their knees on our necks since that time. When I say they, I mean France and, surrounding communities, because it's all a part of the grand scheme of things. And what we need to do is we need to rally up the troops, and we need to educate ourselves and empower ourselves. For a lot of people that are tuning in tonight, you will understand that Haitian people are independently strong, hardworking, tenacious, and the list goes on. But there's only so much a people can take, and there's only so much a people should be allowed to take when it comes to their homeland, when it comes to their families, when it comes to relatives and things of that nature. What's happened is we have gotten to the point of just kind of being numb to the realness of what the Haitian community has endured because of the bullying, because of the embarrassment, because of the constant rigmarole of making us feel less than. So what do we need? We need, first of all, with the new situation in regards to the Haitian immigrants, or the asylum seekers, we like to call them, we need, if they have gotten to the United States of America and their foot has touched the land, they need asylum now. No more deportations. We're calling on Joe Biden. We're calling on Kamala Harris. We're calling on the people that are in power to make an effective change, because we cannot take the stress anymore. As we just read off, because we gained our independence so many years ago, we have been literally on the bottom of the totem pole. Haiti is a very rich land. For those that don't know, Haiti is not an impoverished third world country that the media keeps making it seem. The reason why they do that is to keep us embarrassed and to keep us downtrodden. But we need to rise again. We need to stand up on our 2 feet. For those that are listening to me that understand this to be true, if you're Haitian and you have family members that are trying to come into this country, communicate with them, okay? Let them know that there are organizations out here that are helping them. We have people set up from Texas to New York City to all places in the United States that can help our asylum seekers. It's very dangerous for them to take that journey. Matter of fact, I just met a family that took 2.5 months to come here from Brazil. Rudy, Cliff, I'm trying to hold it down so that I don't cry, but understand that this is real. Imagine taking your very last and giving it to these, like, I don't want to call them slave traders, but these people that are supposed to help you get to safety, and you give your very last, and you're taking everything you have to escape the dangerous lives that you're living in, to get to America, and then getting told that you cannot stay here, and they're transporting the people from detention center to detention center. One of the things I want to piggyback off of is what you just said, Rudy. On the Treasure Coast, for example, there are no homeless shelters, but there are veterinary shelters, there are animal rescue shelters, and it's a disgrace because animals are getting treated better than our Haitian immigrants that are trying to come for a better life. And may I just add, when you send them back to Haiti, you're sending them back to a death wish, like literally to their own demise, because Haiti cannot house the hundreds of thousands of people that are trying to escape poverty, that are trying to escape insecurities, as well as the demeaning situations that they have been living in for over a decade now.
Well, the thing that I want to accomplish tonight is, as you say, sometimes pictures get painted that are not accurate. And if you want to call in and talk to my guests, or you have questions you want to pose to me, that phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. What I want to establish tonight is to destroy the myth that Haiti is in the predicament created all by themselves. That's just
Correct.
not true. Now, have they made some mistakes? I don't think there's any country on the planet that has not made mistakes. But for the most part, people have looked past some of the things that happened. Like, I will bet you that most of the people listening to the night have no idea that we invaded Haiti in 1915 And we were there from 1915 to 1934. President Woodrow Wilson sent troops to invade in 1915. The revolt of Haitians was put down by U.S. military. And now, prior to that, this was the part that got me. The French put the penalty on Haitian people and made them pay that money, which was put a stranglehold on the economy. And then America also put an embargo against Haiti. Everything was stacked against them. Now everybody talks about, well, they had, yes, they did. But Papa Doc Duvalier was put in there by America.
Mm-hmm.
He was put in there by America. But I just think it's just so important that people get a proper picture. They too often don't want to tell the whole story, and people are left with impressions that are not accurate. And we got a caller on line one, Anaya. Steve, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Rudy?
Okay.
I agree. There's just a super imbalance in the way people are treated that are immigrants here, depending on your skin color, number one. But it don't even have to be an immigrant. If you read the news the other day, Benton Harbor, Michigan, which is 45% black, found out that for the last 3 years, Michigan's been feeding them leaded water at 995 parts per million when you're only allowed 15 parts per million.
I know.
So how much brain damage has been done to newborns and old people in 3 years in a community that's 45% black? And nobody caught it after Flint. So it's not just the Haitians coming in, and it is their color. Don't make any mistake about that.
Thank you.
It is. We still are the most racist country in the world. Make no mistake about that either. But as I tell people, immigration of people of color are happening at a rate where pretty soon there will be no such thing as a pure American. If you want to look at it that way, none of us are a pure American. When we trace my family tree, it went back to 1790, but it came from Ireland. It didn't come from America. So I think we need to re-examine our policies and how we treat people. And like aid, Haiti suffered a devastating natural disasters. So what did we do? They parked the hospital ship off the coast and treated like 9 patients. I'm sitting there going, I don't believe this. The inhumanity. Maybe I'm just getting too old, Rudy,
No, Steve. My friend, you're right on it. You're right on it. And I just wish we could reach more people like you and get them to understand. They got blinders on.
I do understand.
I know you do. But I'm saying,
when I was in law enforcement and some Haitians would drown, they would joke about it and say, "Oh, we got float-ups." And I go, "You're sick. These are people."
Yeah.
That got in a rickety boat and came 1,000 miles for freedom and died trying, and you're making fun of them? You're sick. What the hell is wrong with this country? It's not Joe Biden. It's not the Democrats. It's not the Republicans. It's the people themselves. They just won't, they're like the yellow line in the middle of the road. The only thing that's there is roadkill.
Yep.
So, I don't know, Rudy, but I do sympathize with this Haitian problem, and we need to re-examine the whole system, streamline it. You shouldn't have 10,000 people waiting in line.
Yeah.
Do it like private industry does. Do piecework. The more you process, the more money you make. If I got the federal government, would turn into Ford Motor Company in their assembly line. I'm serious.
Yeah.
But right now, it's just push papers and get your check. There's no urgency. Because, they're not hurting, so they don't think that these people living under a bridge are hurting. They're wrong.
Right.
And those little kids, what can they do? They're little kids. They don't even know what's happening.
I agree.
America, you're the richest country in the world. You're supposed to be the most generous and compassionate. How about start showing it instead of just talking about it? Words mean nothing without action.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say, and thank you for letting me say it.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure having you call. And that's just one of my faithful listeners, Steve.
Yeah.
You probably heard him call before when you're here.
Yes, I have. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And everything he said was correct. Everything he said was absolutely correct. And for those that are listening, don't forget, and I don't know if you already mentioned this, but the Battle of Savannah, Georgia, I don't think you mentioned this, but in 1779, Haiti sent over 500 soldiers to fight. And never got, before we even got our freedom, right?
Yeah.
Over 5 soldiers came. We never got any kind of, acknowledgments or anything like that. Had our Haitian soldiers did not come to this country, we don't know what language we would be speaking right now. We'd be speaking French or something, because at the end of the day, this was a big battle. This was actually the revolution, American Revolutionary War, okay? And we sent over 500 soldiers to come fight for America with no recognition, no support back, and it wasn't until 2007, October 8th, that there was a memorial that took place that stands in Savannah, Georgia, to dedicate those soldiers to Savannah and to the world to see that we did that. Because Haiti has always been there for everybody, and yet we're on the bottom of the totem pole. It's just not fair, and it's not right what's going on, and it's a problem when we come and when we clean the homes, and we become doctors, and when we become lawyers, and when we become attorneys, and when we become police officers and things of that nature. We are human beings that want a better life, just like every Italian, every Russian, every race of people that come to these great United States of America, that says that we should be here for freedom and harmony and things of that nature.
I got another caller, Phyllis.
You have an open border, and you're allowing everybody to come in without even being checked. You want us vaccinated, but you're bringing all the foreigners in, they're not being vaccinated. That's not right either.
What? I'm sorry, what'd you say now?
Like now with the border crisis, everybody coming across the border, not being checked for COVID, not getting vaccinated. You want all the Americans to be vaccinated, but you want to bring the foreigners in to not be vaccinated. If you fly in, you got to prove you're vaccinated. If you walk in, you don't.
Remember, this is not a debate. This is a discussion. All right?
No, I get that. That's what I'm saying. But, let's put it in perspective of what's going on in this country.
No, Phyllis, you got to put it in perspective. I'm perfectly willing to listen to what you have to say, but first off, you don't know that they're not screening people who are coming into this country.
Exactly.
You don't know that. You're
assuming.
Jackie said that.
You're assuming. No. It came.
You are assuming that we just want to let people in without any care of whether or not people are healthy or not. Do you really?
Did you hear what Saki said? It came right out of Saki's mouth. She said, if they show symptoms, we will check them. If they don't, they're not checking them. It came out of her mouth. Check it out. She said that. Saki said that.
Jackie,
if they're showing symptoms that they're sick.
Who's Jackie?
Jackie, the spokesperson for the United States, for Biden.
No. Oh, the press secretary said that?
Yes.
No.
Check it out. That's what she said.
Jen Psaki, no. There's no way Jen Psaki said that. Even if she believed that, she wouldn't say it. As careful as she is about her work. No, she didn't say that.
Apparently she wasn't careful enough.
I don't even have to look that up, Phyllis. I know she did not say that. She wouldn't.
Rudy, I saw her say it on TV.
You didn't hear her say that.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Okay, I did.
You didn't hear her say that we are letting people into this country without any concerns for whether or not they have COVID issues.
That's not what she said. What she said was We're only checking the ones that are showing symptoms. So if they ask them if they're checking all these people, they say, well, the ones that are showing symptoms. So what does that tell you?
When's the last time you were at the doctor, Phyllis?
Read the doc? I'm not reading. I come out of her lips.
I'm just asking you. When was the last time you were at the doctor?
I was at the doctor last week.
Okay. What was the first thing the doctor asked you when you went into the office?
I wasn't there for me. I was there for somebody else. But while I was there, he said, "Yeah, how you doing? I'm doing great."
No. He asked you.
He didn't ask me if I was vaccinated. He did not. No.
When you step in, what they ask you is, have you been out of the country?
Yeah, you having any symptoms? Yeah.
Are you having any symptoms? And they do ask you now, have you been vaccinated? They ask you that. That's routine questioning at the doctor. So now,
That's us.
Well, so you're saying that we care less about people coming in than we do ourselves?
No, what I'm saying is they can't process them fast enough, and to get them through, they are not processing them correctly like they should be.
No, Phyllis, that's something that you are hung up on about having people that are immigrants coming into the country. And you know, the irony of the whole thing is, Phyllis, this is a country of immigrants. And it just really freaks me. It really freaks me out that people get pissed off that immigrants are coming here when everybody here is an immigrant.
That's right. No. See, now you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say I was pissed off that immigrants coming here. What I said to you was, because my grandparents came here from another country. I get that. They were processed through Ellis Island, and you had to be at work, you had to have a sponsor, all that good stuff. What I'm saying to you is you can't possibly tell me there's over 1 million people that have come here just recently have all been processed correctly or properly and vaccinated. They're not vaccinated. Not telling me they're all vaccinated. You tell me they're all vaccinated because they're not. Well, that's what I'm saying to you.
I wouldn't say that because I have no knowledge of that to be true. And if you've ever listened to me, you know I pride myself on delivering factual information. And if it's something that I don't know for certain, I will say I don't know, or I'll get back and tell you to answer that later.
Oh, I know. I listen to your show. I understand that, but I know what I heard. I know what I saw. But what I'm saying to you is I'm just upset about the way everybody badmouths America because we're not a bad country, and we're definitely not the whole racist country that they claim we are. We are not. I'm sorry. If you look at where we're at today, I mean, there's always going to be racism. I don't care what country you're in and where you're at. But why do we got to blow it out of proportion? People are always willing to help other people. I don't care what color they are. Then the people who aren't are always going to be a racist and an idiot.
Okay,
so why do we always have to stir the fire and make everybody angry?
Well, thank you very much for calling. And call in again, please. I love it when ladies call. And we have another caller. Anaya? Anaya, you still there? Yeah, Anaya, you still there?
Yeah, the lines are blowing up tonight.
I know it. Go ahead.
I wanted to jump in when Phyllis was speaking, but I know you have another caller, so should I wait?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so in regards to Phyllis and anybody else with this preconceived notion that they're letting people in, that is not what's happening. I was just in Texas. First of all, you know, people like Phyllis, and this is not a debate or an attack on anybody's character, but people like Phyllis, they always come with this argument. But I'm so thankful for like people like yourself, Rudy, that shuts it down really quickly. This is a country of immigrants. This country was built on immigrants, and let's not forget this country was stolen to begin with, right? There were people already here on the great United States, floors or whatever you want to call it, land. And what happened is people always forget that because we have built ourselves up with this pride, and we've taken so much from other nations that when people like Phyllis call in, they feel so entitled to share these preconceived notions that people are not getting checked. And they are. Every single person that's coming through these borders are getting checked. Those that are not meeting their criteria or that may have COVID, et cetera, are being shipped back with no questions asked. I know I was just in Texas. I went from New York to Washington, D.C. to speak in front of the White House to Texas. From Texas, laid over in Atlanta, from Atlanta to South Florida, and I'm back in New York now. What people need to understand is nobody is just getting a free pass. Furthermore, you know what they're doing with the immigrants that are coming? They're shipping them around to detention centers because one of the biggest arguments was that right here. Oh, yeah, they're just letting people in and they don't even know if they have COVID. And that's not the case either because everybody is getting screened and checked, okay? And it's so inhumane how they're treating the people. And again, I thank God for you, Rudy, in speaking up because I was getting angered because here is a woman that's calling whose own grandparents came from wherever the heck they came from, had to go through Ellis Island, had to understand the life of an immigrant, and now they're calling in with this, tit-for-tat scenario.
Yeah, we got another caller. We got Kevin on line 1. Yes, sir.
Hey, good afternoon. How are y'all doing?
Good.
I just wanted to correct on one thing that I overheard on the radio is that the United States is a country of immigrants. That is a false statement. The United States has never been a nation of immigrants. It's always been a settler state with a core of descendants from the original colonial settlers, which was primarily Anglo-Saxons, Scots, Irish, and Germans, amongst other
Still immigrants.
groups. So to say on live radio that America is coherently a racist country, it's just despicable on your part, not on you directly, but on whoever's saying it's part. We have racial problems.
That America is a racist country. That's problematic for you.
Say again.
America is a racist country. That's problematic for you.
I don't understand.
Well, I'm asking you. Are you saying that America is not racist, and calling America racist is a problem for you? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said that to say that America is the most racist country is not right. It's untrue.
Okay, well, tell me. Okay, why is you think that's not true?
Because every single day in the country, millions of Americans who are all different races work together, go to work together, they work in government together, they work everyday jobs together.
So you think untrue. So you think because they work together that means they're not racist?
Again, that's not the statement that I made.
Okay, well let me just tell you something, okay? Because you got your blinders on, because the prevailing racism of America is shining through right now like a high beam bulb on a car. Now, why would I say that? I'm going to tell you why I say it. They are changing voting to make it secure, supposedly, but what are the areas that they're trying to change the voting in? What's the area? All the areas where there's black and brown people. Now,
Right.
if you was trying to make changes to voting to make it more secure and you included the entire United States, I'd be like, I might not like it, but I'd say okay. But when you go after specific counties in the United States and say the vote is fraudulent, and it just so happens that those particular areas are dominated by black and brown people, do you think we can't see that? Do you think really that we're living in a tunnel and we can't see that?
Preach.
I think that statement alone, you have to understand that all 50 states have their own regiments. Every state.
Can you see? I'm asking you. Can you see that, Kevin?
Rudy, he chooses not to see it, Rudy. That's the bottom line.
It's not true. It's not true that this is a racist country. It's not true that this is the most racist country.
So let me ask you,
did you know that did you know that in the early 2000s they changed the protocols of voting so that there's no string protocol on the votes? Every state is different. And are you saying that my family, who's dark and Hispanic, and that other families who are brown and black are so uneducated they can't find out how to vote? They can certainly find out how to get their registration for their car. They can certainly find out how to get insurance and other paperwork.
You're evading the point that I'm making, and I'm not going to let you get away with that when you call here. When you call here, you're not going to get away with that. You're playing dodgeball. The question that I asked you, very straightforward, is if you are trying to make a more secure election, you would do that in every state and every county in the country. Now, I may not like that, but as an American, I say, well, maybe there's some point to that. But when you go after Detroit, Philadelphia, and Atlanta and challenge the voting in those areas, Kevin, what I'm trying to get you to see, for God's sakes, please see this. Black people and brown people see that and go, wow. Wow.
Well, every state is different. Every state has their own legislation, and if that's a factor, then the people of that state should make it well known within their state, and there's no more to say that I could say on that.
Okay, well, thank you for calling. Appreciate you. Call again anytime. Anaya?
Hi.
Hey, Anaya, welcome back.
What you got to say? What you got to say about that?
Well, let me tell you what just happened recently. As you know, I'm under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, so you already know where this is going. Recently, for the past year, we've been fighting for the George Floyd bill. That didn't even get passed, where George Floyd was literally killed, assassinated, however you want to put it, in front of the entire world. And we still can't even get a simple bill to pass, whereas they don't strangle our black men or women. And no matter how it's done, we still don't even have that right. So people like Kevin and Phyllis, and then here's the thing. I forget sometimes that you guys are on the Treasure Coast. So I'll try to, be as kind as I can be with my words. But there's a lot of interracial, couples. There's a lot of communities that are working together, living together, that literally don't look like what I'm dealing with up north. So my point of view is straightforward now, right? I can open up and share that this is outright racism. Nobody can tell me otherwise. I'm living through it. I'm constantly in D.C. I work underneath Reverend Al Sharpton. I don't even work for Rev, but I work underneath him with the different committees and things like that. So when it comes to the bills, when it comes to legislation, when it comes to laws, when it comes to dealing with Joe Biden directly, right? This is what I see on a daily basis. So for people that are on the South Florida scene or down south, they're never going to see it like myself or you, Rudy, because you lived in Philly. You understand Northern America versus South America, or, not South America, but the South, or what have you. And then obviously Cliff has an understanding because he is sensitive to the issues as a white man who can understand that this is happening straight openly in our faces. Now, I say that to say because I have white relatives. I have interracial relationships going on in my family. And when I tell you I can't have one conversation with none of these knuckleheads, because the first thing out of their mouths is stuff like, well, my husband feels like you just said something that was so derogatory about white people on your social media page. Can you just tone it down a little bit? Meanwhile, we have Amber Geiger that walks into John Botham's house and shoots him dead and then cries on stand saying that she thought it was her apartment. So these are the types of issues that I see and I deal with on a daily basis. If you look at my social media, you'll see myself and Attorney Ben Crump, at every march or at every rally. You'll see myself and Reverend Al Sharpton every weekend together. I work very closely with his children. And people that are watching this live platform right now, Pamela Clark, National Action Network member, Nefertiti Carter, a.k.a. Mama, she's watching right now, and they could tell you straight up what we see on a daily basis. And it's legitimately racist tactics being utilized against us. When you can't even give somebody a bottle of water as they wait in line to vote in a predominantly black community, listen, for those that don't want to see it, they could kick rocks with no shoes on. That's all I have to say without being very disrespectful on the African American Teen Show. That's all I have to say, because we can't change their minds. We could ignore them until something, God forbid, happens in their family, and that's when they're going to open up their eyes.
Well, you can, listen, Kevin may not want to admit it, but I put some thoughts in his brain. I could tell at the end of the conversation.
You sure did.
You could tell, right? He ran.
I sure could.
He couldn't say anything because he knew I was right. And
Correct.
it's insulting to me. I had a bunch of friends when I belonged to a different church that I knew pretty well, who I'm not very friendly with anymore, who would try to tell you all kinds of things. Well, no, it's not like that. It's like this. What do you mean it's not like that? Do you think
Correct.
I'm not? I'm an intelligent guy too. I see the same thing you see. I don't know why you can't see it. To me, and like I said, I was really passionate about that because I really get upset. People say, well, you don't want to secure the vote. That's a bunch of hockey puck. That is a bunch of hockey puck. Because if you wanted to secure votes, you'd secure them everywhere.
Correct.
They don't want to secure votes everywhere. They want to secure votes where most of the black and brown people vote.
Yep.
Come on. That's just like, it's like so blatant.
Well, we could even take it a step further, Rudy. Afghanistan and Haiti right now. Let's look at the contrast. Let's look at how the Afghanis are being welcomed in with open arms to the great United States of America. Do any of them coming off of those planes look like myself or you, Rudy? Hell no. Right? Now, Why don't people talk about the treatment there? Why? Because in Afghanistan, there were some deals made. I don't know. I can't go into any further detail, and I don't want my head chopped off. But obviously, there's a reason why these people already have homes secured. They have, jobs secured. They have what they need coming into the United States, and they sure don't look like me or you. But when it comes to the black immigrants that are trying to get the same kind of due process, it's an absolute crying shame and a problem. And with that being said, let me share this too for those that are wondering, what are some of the action plans? What are we doing to help our immigrant people besides just sending items, besides welcoming them to the United States? I just got arrested, Rudy, on the Brooklyn Bridge. We're now called the Brooklyn Bridge 6. Cliff, I want you both to hear this, because we had to go in front of traffic to make our cause known to the media, to the nationalists, to Joe Biden. And on Friday, I have to go back to court, whereas they can give myself and 5 other leaders in the community, Reverend Kevin McCall, Pastor Reverend Samuel Nicholas, IEC Blues, who's a singer and an activist, Sandy Rubenstein, a.k.a. the civil rights attorney, Sanford Rubenstein, okay, as well as Jackson Rockenster of Little Haiti BK. We go to court on the 15th, which is Friday, at 8 o'clock in the morning, where we have to ask for a way to not do time. We may have to do 15 days or what have you, but I want you to know that this situation is so real for us, because I remember a time where the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had to go to jail for us. I remember a time where Congressman John Lewis had to get beaten, and he went across the bridge, and they almost killed him several times. They beat him so bad he was in and out of consciousness. I remember a time where our black leaders had to stand up like Ralph David Abernathy with Dr. King, and the Bernie Sanders that we know today, who stood up as a Jewish man, who had to say enough is enough. Now look at me in 2021. And I'm the only female out of the Brooklyn Bridge Six, but I am standing up tall and saying that we need asylum now. We need a due process and no more to Title 42. Because years ago, when Elian Gonzalez, a little Cuban boy, came across those rivers, came across the ocean, they had a law in place that stated wet foot, dry foot. If one of your feet touches this American soil, you are allowed a due process.
Yes.
Why is it different with the black Haitians that are coming across for the same justice? Stand with us on Friday if you are in New York City. If you want to send somebody to New York City, whoever you are, we're calling on all the media. We'll be out there at 8 o'clock in the morning, 1 Center Street, New York, 10007. 8 o'clock in the morning, you can meet Anaya A. if you haven't met me already. But on the Treasure Coast, a lot of people have known me for years, right? But we need all the media to know what's happening on Friday morning for our Haitian immigrants, because it's not fair. For those that are in communication with people like Rudy, find out how to get in touch with me. I will send Rudy my number, my New York line, or I can even give it to you now. 347-617-6873. 347-617-6873. We're going back to Washington, D.C. We're going to be hopefully meeting with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden very soon to say what's going on here. What do we have to do to change some of these laws and these infractions or whatever it is that's going on, because it's not right. And, of course, these issues that we are seeing now, they're coming from the Trump administration. And, of course, things don't happen overnight. But when you have people on the border like these racist Texans with whips, that's a crisis. That's a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, I agree.
Even dogs don't get whipped.
Yeah, I listen. I changed my mind 100% after doing some reading, which I tell my listeners all the time. If you read and do some research, it's the best thing for you, because you gain knowledge and understanding. Like I would venture to guess, not many people knew that America actually occupied Haiti.
That's right. In 1950, after they assassinated that president at that time as well.
That's right. Yep. And I don't think many people knew that we participated in the embargo of Haiti, which helped to keep it down. The cards have been stacked against Haiti all along. Now, I will say again, there are some things, I'm sure, that Haiti did that were not kosher. Most of it came from corrupt leadership. But there's also...
Who were put in place, like you said, by the American government. Let's not forget, real quick, Michel Martelly, who was put in by Hillary Clinton just a decade or so ago.
Yeah.
People keep forgetting these things, and we have to remind the people, because they put in who they want so that they can take what they want from Haiti. And, of course, the puppets that they put in, they don't even have a brain cell to stand on anyway. So they don't care. They don't care, because guess what? Michel Martelly is a former, stripper on stage. He would wear songs on stage performing, and he did a lot of cocaine. Excuse my language, but this is the truth. He said it himself. But Hillary Clinton, okay, she put him in place. Let's be real. Let's talk about it, guys. You can't tell me somebody of this magnitude and this decrepit behavior is somebody you choose. Why did you choose him, Hillary? Is it because he had outstanding morals? Is it because he was out here helping the people? Or you knew that he could be used in the way you wanted him to be used for your work that you needed done? Let's be real.
Yeah. Good point. But you listen, we have educated people tonight. That's for sure. And anybody that's listening to this show got themselves a good education.
And perhaps you've noticed that we do not allow filibustering on this show. You will show respect for the host, or you could be absolutely cut off and even banned from the show, because we've done that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, we have. Yes. But, that's, I hope we get it right. And I think you make a fantastic point. We took 125,000 Afghanis, and we jumped through all kinds of hoops trying to find them a place, whether it be here or somewhere else.
Correct.
But we don't want to take the same effort to help the Haitian people who have been through a hell of their own. I saw a guy on TV. He was practically in tears. He was a young man too. I could tell he was like in his early 30s. He said, "I can't go back there. Do you see my wife and kids here? It's violent." He said, "I'm afraid. I'm afraid to have my wife and kids go back there."
Thank you.
I thought to myself, what a hell of a thing that is. You know, he might want to go live in his country, but he's afraid because the thugs and the gangs have taken over the streets.
Correct.
Well, so we owe it. Now, I'll tell you something else. I guess it's died on the vine, but in doing my research, Obama pledged $100 million to Haiti. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if the money's ever been delivered, but he said.
And that's another problem with the people that are in leadership, and you just mentioned the gangs. You know, one thing that Reverend Al Sharpton always says is we don't make guns in Brooklyn or the Bronx. Where are they coming from? Where is the corruption coming from? And that's one of the things that's happening. There's an oligarchy system in Haiti that is manipulating everybody. So that $100 million, Lord only knows where that money has gone, because one thing people have to remember, in 2010, after the earthquake, $6 billion were donated to help Haiti, and 6 homes were built with $6 billion. So you mean to tell me $1 billion per home? $1 billion per home, America. Let's be realistic. The nonprofit organizations, their overhead fees, let's call a spade a spade. This is what's going on. And of course, the Haitian leadership is not to be, given a slap on the wrist either. Like I said, but who's putting them in position so that they can keep circulating the funds the way they want to circulate the funds, because they know whomever they're putting in position, like Michel Martelly, who wears songs on stage, half naked, they know he's not going to do right by the country. That's not by happenstance or coincidence.
Well,
but for those that can do right and that care about the people, stand up with your girl Anaya A. Stand up with the pastors and the leaders that care. Stand up with Rudy Howard. Stand up with Master D in South Florida. Stand up with Yvette Clark, Congresswoman Yvette Clark, Congressman Gregory Meeks. Stand up with Reverend Sam Nicholas. Stand up with us who actually care for the betterment of a better tomorrow.
I got to go. Thank you, my friend. Hopefully, we got some people roused up to support you. Take care. Stay in touch. Folks, thank you for listening to the African American Scene. God bless and be safe.